after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Moving the Goalposts. I'm here with Liam. All right, so you can join us you could find our show on YouTube, youtube.com/ETB Network. You could follow Empty the Bench Network, ETB, at etbpodcast.com. You can listen to Moving the Goalposts wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can also follow the show on social media at MTGP ETB on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart and Liam at Liam MTGP. And this show is presented by Wolf Spreads. All right. So there's a lot to get to. One, obviously, Harbaugh leaves Michigan for the Chargers. This isn't particularly surprising because it's one of these weird moments where like a rumor that's been going on for like half a decade has finally come true. Every year since like he started coaching at Michigan, we've heard rumors about Harbaugh going to the NFL, and it just never happened. Now that he finally won a national championship, and B, there's a scandal that came about. It's not exactly surprising that this happened. The only part of this that's kind of surprising is that it happened so quickly. I'm surprised it happened this quickly. I thought maybe it would drag on a little more. Maybe the Chargers would interview Belichick or something. I think that there's a lot of things about this. One of them there's a few things. One is it could potentially affect Harbaugh's legacy a lot. If Harbaugh ends up winning a national championship with Michigan as he did, and then ends up winning a Super Bowl with the Chargers, that affects his legacy pretty drastically. Also, I'm really interested to see what happens to Michigan after Harbaugh leaves, because everywhere Harbaugh goes and then leaves, it just turns to absolute shit. It's like LeBron leaving. Like everywhere LeBron goes and then leaves, it is a horrible situation every time LeBron leaves. I feel like this is going to happen again. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think a few things are different this time in terms of things going to shit, but to address what actually happened, I think it's a good move. I thought Harbaugh was going to leave. I think that if there was no scandal, he would probably stay. That this is probably a two-way leaving. Harbaugh is like a California guy. He was from Palo Alto. He cut his teeth coaching at Stanford. Then he was the 49ers coach. So I thought that this move made sense out west. He's a little bit better suited. You have a conference that's really tough, so it's going to be a big challenge for him. But I thought it made sense, and he's won everywhere he's gone. He went to the Super Bowl with San Francisco. He did really well at Stanford, Michigan. He won the title. So this is a good move for the Chargers. It's a great move for Justin Herbert. But in terms of him leaving Michigan, going to shit, I think it's different because Michigan is going to have a lot of NIL money. They're one of the biggest programs in the country, and they have a lot of rich alumni. So they're going to have a lot of NIL money. They're going to do well in recruiting. I think just being the national championship's the brand. But it is a blow because he's a good coach who's won everywhere they went. I mean, you have to think about, we've talked about this on other shows, but where Michigan was when Jim Harbaugh came.
Yeah.
And the Rich Rodriguez years, and like this, he's won everywhere he goes.
Yeah. I think people forget that. And it was a very common hot take about 5, 6, 7 years ago that Harbaugh's the Harbaugh's overrated line. It kept coming up. Harbaugh's overrated because he wasn't beating Ohio State. I mean, I don't think it's really fair to judge a coach based on basically comparing him to other top programs without taking into account the context of where the program was before he came in. It would be like if somebody became president of like a third world country and said, "Look, people living here are so living so horribly compared to the United States." It's like, well, it's a third world country. It was like that before. It's the same type of thing with college football teams. Like like you have to take into account how much of a joke Michigan was before Harbaugh took over and the powerhouse that he turned them into. How many coaches could have done in Michigan what Harbaugh was able to do? I could maybe count on one hand the number of coaches that would have been able to do it. Maybe Saban, maybe Kirby Smart, maybe Pete Carroll, maybe Urban Meyer, and not many other. That's pretty much it. I can't think of anybody else that I think would have been able to do as good of a job with Michigan as Harbaugh was able to do. But but now you are right about one thing, which is that NIL money does affect like the team a lot. But a lot of the reason there was so much NIL money is because of Harbaugh. I mean, Alabama's lost recruits since Saban left. Like the same thing could happen here. Although it is obviously, it does help that they just won the national championship. But I'm just saying it will be interesting to see where things go, because it wouldn't surprise me if Michigan really goes back down to earth because Harbaugh left, if they're going to start losing to Ohio State again.
Well, yeah, and remember, they've got to deal with Ohio State, Penn State. The defending, the team they just beat in the championship game is going to be in their conference. USC, one of the premier programs, is going to be in their conference. UCLA is going to be in their conference now. So it gets harder. But I will say, as a New York Giant fan, whose team's been horrible for the last 10 years, I would still take these last 10 years over. I would still take the 2 Super Bowls that I won and these last 2 years instead of being good all the time. So if I'm a Michigan fan, even if they're bad, I think you have to just take solace that you've won the national championship and take what comes with it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
How many schools win the national championship? Not a lot.
Right. And he was able, and you know what? You can't ask for much more from him. He won you a national championship. What more could you really have asked for? It's not like he left without winning anything. And obviously he didn't want to deal with any of the sanctions that apparently
I see yeah, I agree. I could see, by the way, Jim Harbaugh has a shelf life, though. Can we agree on that? He goes to places for years, and then at some point he expires. And even though he's successful, he does leave there.
Yeah, there is some truth to that.
Could you see a world, by the way, this is going to get into the crazy scenarios, but could you see a world where he's successful with the Chargers, but not successful enough, and eventually his shelf life will go, and USC has not been producing so well, and they get rid of Lincoln Riley, and he scoots over?
And Harbaugh goes to USC?
I think that as well is possible after a few years.
Well, if you think sports are rigged and writers, and there's like a writer's room, like it's a TV show, I think that would happen. I mean, I suppose it's possible. I mean, it would be likely close to a decade in the future,
right?
If that were to happen.
But I just think he has a shelf life. Like, yes, he's successful, but obviously he lost the locker room in San Francisco right after going to the Super Bowl. Like, he obviously has a shelf life. Same in Stanford.
That's true. It's also true that I guess the reason, yeah, much more of a shelf life than say Saban, who was there for well, here's the thing: he had a shelf life in the NFL. Do you think he really had as much of a shelf life in college?
Yeah, I mean, it's
I guess
tough
it's
because
different.
Stanford is
College.
kind of like, yeah. I mean, coaching college and coaching pros are insanely different, especially like with you're coaching like guys in their 30s, grown men, adults, like with a job versus like kids.
Right.
It's becomes very different. But he was successful, and you mentioned Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's really the only guy who's been as that successful in both.
Yeah, that's why I always was so annoyed at the whole, even like when it was popular, which nobody's saying anymore. But when it was so popular, like the whole Harbaugh is overrated narrative, how popular it was at the time. And that was really what the just standard viewpoint was. And I was always annoyed by it because I always thought it was a very short-sighted take. And it just holding college football coaches to like an impossible standard of like landing a plane with no wings.
Well, now, do you think also that when we talk about Michigan's future, do you think they're probably going to get sanctioned as well, right?
They will, but I don't know how harshly.
Do you? I think it's possible also that the stuff that we know, the Connor Stallion stuff and the COVID recruiting violations, could also just be like what we know, and some other stuff could come out later where it was like they're going to get sanctioned harder, and this is why he left. I think that's possible as well.
Yeah, that certainly is possible. I mean, I don't know how much of it is the same. Like you did say that you probably would have stayed if not for the sanctions. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking exactly. He hasn't been at Michigan that long. I mean,
Like college terms, no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. By college standards, I mean Nick Saban was there for like 17 years, I think, whatever it was.
Even though I think the long-term college coach is kind of starting to go away. You're seeing colleges fire guys a lot quicker.
And you're also seeing coaches leave a lot quicker.
Right.
And the players going with them.
Right.
Well, the thing is, I think the reason that there was such a common long-term college football coach is because so many of the jobs were just good enough that they didn't want to leave.
Right.
Like Saban really had nowhere else to go, for instance. He wasn't going to leave Alabama, for instance. And coaches have options. I mean, you look at a coach, you look at like Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, for instance. You would think that he would be there a lot longer because Oklahoma is a very good job.
Right.
But USC was just a better job, and he left to go to USC.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I mean, some schools fire quicker than others. I mean, you look at something like like Kalen DuBois just leaving Washington to go to.
Jed Fish left Arizona to go to Washington.
Yeah.
Which happens. That happens all the time in college basketball. Like the Cinderella team will lose their coach immediately.
Yeah, so that's pretty much always what happens.
Yeah.
So here's a little. All right, so in addition to all the Harbaugh stuff, it's also the NFL playoffs. So I do want to get into. I do want to recap some of the games. I went 2 for 2, so I am 50. Hold on a second. Whatever. I am 50%. So, how did you do?
2 and 2. 2 and 2 or 2 for 2?
I'm sorry, 2 and 2. I don't know how to talk today.
No, I had the Chiefs and the Packers, and I took the Texans was my one loss on the spread.
The Texans were
that was kind of the game.
I also had the Packers. I think my biggest issue is that I took the Texans. I guess the Texans haven't. When I bet against them, the week before, they were they ended up proving me wrong. And then when I bet on them, I mean, the thing is, the Texans looked pretty good in the first half. I thought they actually had a chance. And the thing is that at halftime, I hedged my bet and took the Ravens -6.5. And I'm so glad I did that
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, it was a smart move. That was the least eventful game. But the Texans, they looked all right, but they only scored on a punt return. Baltimore's defense is nasty. To talk about the San Francisco game, they were there for the taking last week. And Green Bay, I thought there was a play where it was 21-14, and Aaron Jones ripped off a big run. 21-17. Aaron Jones ripped off the huge run that I thought sealed the game. And then it came down to the kick. I mean, yes, it was raining, but I kind of blame the Packers that this kid had the most missed kicks in all the NFL. And you still are going with him when you could get another kicker. Like teams do that all the time, get other kickers.
Yeah.
And it's not this kid. He missed an extra point. And it came down to that. I mean, to be fair to him, you could also argue San Francisco did miss a kick as well, so it kind of evened out. But it was not good. And I thought Purdy, he got a lot of
very shaky game.
He had a terrible game. Yeah, it was raining, but he just had a terrible game. And of course, Deebo Samuel going out was big, but he had a terrible game, and they were there for the taking. And they didn't take it. But the big play was Dre Greenlaw's interception, the first one, because it looked like 21-14, like the Packers had all the momentum. And even though they only got a field goal out of that, the 49ers put them themselves in the position to win. And when in doubt, they relied on McCaffrey, he didn't have a great game either, but he came up big when it counted, which is sort of what we talked about with San Francisco through the year. Was much like Michigan, San Francisco can put up a C plus C minus game and still win in the playoffs, which is a mark of a good team, which they did on Saturday.
Yeah, you're right. It's the mark of a good team, but I mean, they can't keep it up, because if they played like that against like say the Ravens or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, or even against the Lions, they're not going to win.
Well, they did play against the Ravens like that on Christmas, and they got smoked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I have to add, by the way, what was Dre Greenlaw doing at the end of the game? He made the interception that sealed it, and he just wouldn't go down. He was just running for like 40 yards in the rain. Like, the whole stadium was screaming at him to go down.
And the thing is, that would have affected the spread if he scored.
Yeah, it would have, because
I would have.
They would have had to still kick the extra point, but
that would still. But the spread was, what was the spread?
It was 8.5, I think. Oh, no, it was 9.5. 9.5.
It was 9.5. Okay.
It was 9.5.
I thought it was way too big.
Yeah. So that, and then to go into the game on Sunday, it confirmed what a lot of Jet fans have known for a while, which is that Todd Bowles is kind of a moron. I'm on the anti go for 2 down 14 team. I kind of would kick the extra point. I also kind of think when you miss a 2-point conversion, it takes momentum away of the touchdown that you just scored. And then also, obviously, I think you've seen this, but Detroit made a big mistake where they snapped the ball with 30 seconds left and clocked it, and Tampa Bay didn't use their timeout.
Yeah, I saw that too. Tampa Bay could have easily used the timeout and forced the field goal. And Todd Bowles, when asked about it afterwards, said that they had no chance. I mean, they had a very low chance. They certainly could have come back, and they could have. I mean, how long was the field goal?
It was like 40 something, but I would just put everyone to block the kick.
That's what I'm saying. But it's not just that. A kick that long is no guarantee.
Or not even that. Kicks general are no guarantee. There could be a bad snap, a block, a false start. It's just stupid, like why you would do that. But I feel like Todd Bowles has kind of been they've kind of won in spite of Todd Bowles at times, which the Jets sort of did as well when he was their coach. Like the Jets would have been much better getting Doug Marrone than Todd Bowles, who they were trying to get that season. But they I mean, I never thought Tampa was good enough. I have to say I have not been thoroughly impressed in the 2 playoff wins by Detroit.
Neither have I.
They escaped away, which we talked about last week. Probably should have lost to the Rams. And then this game was close throughout. It was tied late in the 4th and only ended up as a 1-possession game.
Yeah, and I don't know if it says more about the Bucks or if it says more about the Lions.
Well, like we said, Tampa was kind of only there because of the division they played in, and then
Right,
they
it was
played
like
a
a
team that
consolation
quit,
prize.
and they played a team that quit in the playoff game, the first
Yeah.
playoff game.
So,
So I wasn't thoroughly impressed by them.
I
And
guess you could say that about all the teams in the NFC.
yeah, I agree.
The Niners haven't been impressive.
No,
I mean, like the Niners, they were. I mean, the Packers looked. I mean, if all the NFC teams have just been disappointments, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Niners, all of the and in the Lions, they've all been disappointments. And
yeah.
like you said, the Rams should have won that game. I think the Rams looked like the better team that game. The Lions were just home.
Yeah, I agree. And then to go to the last game, I have two things to say. One is that it was underrated this season how badly banged up the Buffalo Bills defense was.
Yeah.
They've been really banged up all season. And also, anybody in the NFLers who is blaming Josh Allen at all is a moron.
Yeah.
First of all, Stephon Diggs needs to catch the ball. I mean, that's it. He threw a bomb. Diggs dropped the ball, and
it was in his hands.
And also, in terms of Allen, they couldn't run the ball with James Cook. James Cook was getting nothing, and their number 2 receiver was out. Yeah. So they're playing like shorthanded, and they got to it. And I mean, it's not like, again, like the kicker was bad in that one play, but it doesn't matter if Stephon Diggs doesn't catch the ball. So I don't know why the kicker was getting so much hate and Stephon Diggs was getting none. Like, Diggs dropped the ball as well.
And by the way, it's very tough to kick in that wind.
Yes, exactly. It's a horrible day.
Yeah, like most kickers, I feel like most kickers wouldn't have been able to make that kick. Like, if they played in a dome, I think he makes that kick. But because of the weather, but it's not just that. Want to hear something interesting? Josh Allen led the team in rushing. You know it's bad when your quarterback leads the team in rushing. I mean, the quarterback should never be leading the team in rushing. Maybe 2 or 3, but you have to have at least one running back that you can rely on. And James Cook, they weren't able to rely on at all.
They actually ran it better, and they actually ran better than they have in previous years on the season as a whole. They were a better running team than they normally have been.
Yeah,
but this team obviously they're bad.
Yeah, and Josh Allen averaged the most yards. Other than Stephon Diggs, who had one carry, he averaged 6 yards per carry, which was better than all the running backs. And the number 3 receiver was Latavius Murray. He had more receiving yards than Stephon Diggs.
Yeah,
like a running back.
It was a bad weather game, and the Chiefs, of course, came out on top. I mean, I also don't understand like how Travis Kelce gets wide open. I mean, he's literally the only guy that can catch a pass on the team. He should be double teamed every second. And then also, I mean, it didn't really affect the outcome, but like how again, like a lot of the Chiefs take a lot of liberties with the refs. That pass interference call late in the game was so horrible. I mean, he pushed him like 1 yard off the line of scrimmage, and they called the pass interference. They gave the Chiefs a first down instead of a fourth down.
Yeah,
like I don't understand how that gets called in that situation. Did you see about the ref? The ref that they brought in, the road team is 70% win percentage when he refs.
Yeah, I heard that. So the ref for this particular game
for the Bills Chiefs, yeah.
I wonder how common it's one of these things where it's I think like, is it like correlation or causation? Is something like that common with every ref or a lot of refs?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's different in the NBA because you have a lot of crew. Like you have a lot more crew. But as someone pointed out too, the guy had penalized the Bills like the most of any team that he's refed is Liz. I wanted to also point out a stat that you would like, which is that since 2000, the Bills and Dolphins have combined to appear in 1 AFC Championship game, and the Jets have appeared in 2.
Yeah, that's pretty. It doesn't feel like that.
No, but do you, with all the like misery and suffering they go through, do you still hate the Bills?
No, I never really did. Here's the thing. I don't think the only team in the NFL that I really hate is the Patriots. Maybe when I was younger, I was like this. I am not the most vengeful sports fan exactly when it comes to like teams. I mean, maybe for players individually, I might feel that way. But I only have a limited amount of like energy to hate teams. So I hate very few teams, and most of them are in baseball. Uh, I mean, I guess I kind of hate the Celtics, and I kind of hate the Nets a little bit.
Yeah.
So I hate them, but I don't really, and I certainly hate the Patriots. But I think most of my hate, I certainly hate the Braves and I hate the Phillies, um,
Yankees.
and the Yankees. I think like the teams that I hate the most tend to be in baseball because I don't know. I don't really see a reason to hate the Bills because the Jets and Bills aren't really big rivals anymore.
Right.
But
Well,
like the Bills
yeah.
have been so much better. And I don't know, like some Jet fans are like, we hate everybody in the division. I don't. I mean, I just see them as in completely different worlds. I guess some of the reason that I hate the teams that I do is just how I was like just growing up. Like growing up, the Mets went through a phase of being rivals with the Braves and with the Phillies. So
Mhm.
I've learned to hate both teams. And when I was younger, there was a rivalry with the Patriots and the whole cheating scandal and all that, which made me kind of hate them. Um, but it wasn't like that with the Bills.
Would you
So
agree?
I was actually rooting for the Bills.
Would you agree? By the way, I don't know if how you feel because we're both kind of younger, but the Bills, like this window of Bills, has kind of reminded me of like the late '90s, early 2000 Jets teams. Like they were always getting to the divisional round right there. They had a really good team, and then just never got there.
Mm,
Like those Testaverde teams, like they were always divisional round, and then just didn't get to win the
I
game.
think the Bills have more of a chance to win a Super Bowl than those late 90s, early 2000s teams did. But I mean, I have such limited memory of those teams.
Right.
We were so young. It's like
Yeah.
it is a little different, I feel like.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, the thing is, everybody wants to criticize Josh Allen and I'm not denying that he's ever made mistakes, but like the reason they were even like the Bills are even as good as they are is because of Josh Allen.
Right. And like we said, yet the whole defense was banged up, and there was no Gabe Davis. James Cook couldn't run the ball. Like, so he had to essentially do it on his own, and he should have won the game. Like, and then he got a missed field goal and a perfect pass that was dropped. Like, so I don't really know what
Yeah.
else he really could have done. And he's going up against possibly the greatest quarterback ever. So, I can't blame him at all. Like he throws an interception every game, but you would take the bad with the good every time because the good is so much better.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's like the best quarterbacks often throw a lot of interceptions. Here's the thing. Josh Allen needed to do so much in that game. It made interceptions so much more likely to happen. And given the fact that James Cook, who was supposed to be the best running back, didn't do shit. Stephon Diggs didn't do shit. Gabe Davis was
Yeah.
injured. It's like he was getting no help, but also they had a bunch of injuries on defense. And the thing with the Stephon Diggs play is if that is your like fifth best receiver, I'm not going to criticize you too much for that. But it's when you're the star receiver and you're being counted and they're counting on you the most.
And you've been
Where I
crying
feel
the
like
whole
you
year.
have to make that catch.
He's
Josh
been
Allen
crying the
couldn't
whole
have made a
year.
better throw.
He's been crying the whole year. Diggs.
Yeah.
Like, we have to address real quick. We'll get to the picks in 1 sec. I just want to address two things on this game as well. The fake punt was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I forgot
It was
about
way
that.
too much yardage, and they did it to a defensive player. And then also, just reiterate, I liked it because I can't stand the Chiefs, and I was rooting for the Bills. The fumble in the back of the end zone rule has to be changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a stupid rule.
They are changing it.
Well,
They're changing it next
stupid.
year. I could be
And the
wrong.
guy-
They're
he
changing
should
it
have.
next year.
He shouldn't have even tried to. By the way, it was like first down, and he was trying to reach when if he just kept it there, it would have been first and goal on the inch yard, second and goal on the inch yard line. Like, but yeah, that was the other thing I had in the game. The fake punt just made no sense.
It made no sense at all, especially given the fact that the Bills. I mean, people are talking about Josh Allen. The problem was not offense; it was defense. Their defense was horrible, and a defense is bad when the other team gets the ball, and you're like, they're not going to stop them.
Right.
That's how I felt. Every single time the Chiefs got a possession, I was like, the Bills really are. They can't stop a nosebleed right now. You know when that happens when you watch the games, and that's how I felt watching that game. I was like, there really just is no chance the Bills are going to stop this. Whereas the Chiefs' defense actually looked okay, and that really I think is what I really do think that's what killed him. And yeah, that fake punt in that situation, it happened to not be that big of a deal in that particular situation, but it could have been a lot worse.
Only because of the touchback. Otherwise, it would have been a touchdown.
Right, exactly. It's the dumbest rule.
Agreed.
It makes the least amount of sense. It's like it would be like if you lose possession if you fumble the ball out of bounds.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Shouldn't it be like, okay, you get the ball at the 1 yard line?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I agree.
I never understood it. Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be the dumbest rule. You know what else is a dumb rule? I think is drop third strike.
Yeah.
That's another dumb rule. I never understood the drop third strike. Like you strike out, you shouldn't. Like if you strike out, you strike out. You shouldn't be able to like run to first base.
Right, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Like I don't know. I don't know what the. I could look this up. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't find exactly what the new rule is going to be. But yeah, they need to, and it never made any sense to me. It was just so overly punitive. Like if you fumble it out of bounds, like an inch before the end zone, you get the ball on the 1 yard line. But if it's into the end zone, then
yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Then it's a touchback for the other team. Never made any sense. All right, so I do want to make some picks. Chiefs at Ravens -3.5, over under 44.5. Honestly, I think I like the Chiefs to cover. The half a point scares me a little bit. I think there's a few things. I think the Ravens are a better team for sure. Especially, I think they have an advantage given that they're playing at home. Like they have home field advantage and all that. But I think the Chiefs could keep it close with just about anybody. I feel like they're able to really turn it on. I think they're a very good clutch team. And the Ravens do have a history of just folding in big spots. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't really shock me if the Chiefs are able to pull this off somehow. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I have to say, first of all, please, God, Lamar Jackson, save this country from the overload of Taylor Swift that will happen if the Chiefs win this game. It's already overload, and it's going to – okay. But I am with you lockstep. I'm actually going to go Kansas City on the money line, and I agree with everything you said. I think they've turned it on. I think when you talk about the 3.5, when the Chiefs also lose like big games, they never lose them in a blowout. So yeah. I could see it being very close, but I agree. And I think that the hardest thing to do against the Ravens is to run. And the one team that could do it was the Rams. The Rams just ran it until they were starting to run it down their throats. Isaiah Pacheco could do that. And I think it's going to be – I got my pick. I would take Chiefs plus 3.5, Chiefs money line, and I would also take the over.
Yeah, I would probably go with the over too. 44.5 is you just never the reason I like the over in a lot of these playoff games because just very last minute, a lot of scoring changes might happen. I don't know what the weather is supposed to be like. I don't know if it's supposed to be cold or anything.
It'll be cold, but. I mean, the Ravens are so good, but it's just hard to go against the Chiefs. Like, I mean, I thought the Bills were the better team, honestly, than the Chiefs as well.
Yeah, I totally did. I totally did too. It's like,
The
and
Chiefs
they,
just
and
turned
they
it
were,
on.
and the Bills also, they looked like the hottest team in the league. I said it last week that they looked like the hottest team in the league, and they were playing with such an extreme sense of urgency. I mean, it's also like a very Bills thing to collapse in a big spot.
It is the Chiefs, and like you said, it's a very Ravens thing as well. The Chiefs, except the Ravens, have a couple more Super Bowls, but the Chiefs also, like, even when they win or lose, the Chiefs always just play close games.
Yeah, that's true. Which is why, yeah, it's very rare for them to lose a game, a big game like this by more than 3.
That's why they're one of the worst teams in the NFL against the spread, but only because the Chiefs are always like big favorites. And
Yeah,
it's a close game, but they're a horrible team to bet on if they're a favorite. But underdog, I'll take them.
yeah. No, we're totally in lockstep on that. All right, so Lions at Niners. I feel sort of similar in this case. I think there's a bigger gap between the Niners and Lions. Although the thing is, I like the Lions to be able to cover. I think this game can be close. I was underwhelmed by the Niners' performance against the Packers. I don't know if the Niners really are that much better than the Lions, and I also think the Lions they can score a lot of points, and they can keep it close against good teams. And I just think 7 points is too much.
I am actually going to completely disagree on this one. I think a few things. I think the 49ers having a close game last week helps them. It wakes them up, it pushes them a little bit more. Also, last week, while we talked about it was driving rain, there was no Deebo Samuel.
True.
And the Lions, yeah, they've won 2 games against the Rams, who were projected to win 5 games at the start of the year. Now they had a good season, but they're not, the most talented team.
But they were good late in the season.
And the Buccaneers, they had the advantage of having an insane crowd that hadn't seen a playoff win in 30 years. It's a great story. But I'm going Niners. Niners are so talented. I think they were there for the taking last week, and when the team's there for the taking, they normally aren't there for the taking more than once. So yeah. I think that I agree. I think the talent gap is far bigger than it is in the other game.
Yeah, much. Yeah, I don't disagree. All I'm saying is, what I do want is that, like, I don't know. I just feel like the Lions could cover this spread. I mean, now 7 points is not that hard of a spread to cover. It's not.
Remember, the Lions are not like the thing is that I would also take the over because the thing is the Lions are not that good defensively. Now the Packers are not that good defensively, but their defense have been playing very well. The Lions defense hasn't been playing that well. Like the Lions just aren't the best defensive team.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the Lions can give up. I'm more confident in the over, I think, in this game than I am in any sort of spread pick.
Well, I think if you like the Lions, you have to take the over because I think the only way that the Lions cover is if it becomes a track meet.
True. If they score a lot of points. If this is a low-scoring game, I feel like there's no way they cover. Because if it's a low-scoring game, the Niners are going to score a lot of points no matter what, I feel like.
Right.
The only way the Lions can keep up is if they score a lot.
Yeah, agree.
And I don't really think it's really impossible for that to happen. I don't know. No. This is one of the best Lions teams we've ever seen.
Best Lions team ever.
Probably the best Lions team we've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, come to think of it. Yeah, I mean, this is certainly better than the 2014 team.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I do want to get into some NBA stuff. So Doc Rivers was hired as the Bucks head coach. The Bucks fired Adrian Griffin, and it looks like they're celebrating. It looks like the Bucks are throwing a party over this. I don't know if you saw that video on Twitter of the Bucks account showing the players dancing around.
I did.
The interesting thing is I've never seen a coach lose the locker room but still actually have a very good team. Like, the players obviously hated him,
Right.
but they were still winning a lot. And obviously, it seemed like he was pushed out because the players didn't like him. And it's not very common you see that. He probably is the type of guy that is just like it seems like kind of a jerk and doesn't get along with anybody. It almost sort of like Mark Jackson was kind of pushed out because he wasn't very well liked.
Yeah. Well, Adrian Griffin had a horrible start to his tenure in Milwaukee. All he did was go 30-13 and be second in the Eastern Conference.
That's true.
But the biggest loser in this is not Adrian Griffin because he gets a buyout of his contract. The biggest loser by far is ESPN. ESPN got rid of Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, who were beloved by fans, and brought in Doc Rivers for their top booth, and they lose him 2 months into the season. And to top that all off, they were completely cuckolded by CNN, who reported that Doc Rivers was the Bucks head coach first. You have the guy in the building, and you aren't the first to report it. Is insane. And now you have no Jeff Van Gundy, no Mark Jackson, and all you have is Mike Breen and Doris Burke. When you have 2 months till the playoffs is wild. I also don't like Doc Rivers. He won a championship with a great Celtics team, but he is a perpetual playoff choker. And the Bucks, I don't like the Bucks. I hate the Nets, but I wish that Kevin Durant had stepped one toe behind that line, and the Bucks would be a different narrative. But the NBA has
the Bucks are the load.
Yeah.
The luckiest of all time.
They are. And the NBA is, I texted our friend Dave Herman today that the Bucks should have just made Giannis the head coach. Because honestly, but I didn't think they should have fired Budenholzer. And then if you remember, Adrian Griffin had a problem at the start of the year where Terry Stotts, who was the coach of Portland for those years with McCollum and Lillard, he just quit because he couldn't work with him anymore. And that was like the first sign. It's like, well, this is not maybe the best situation.
Yeah, it is kind of nuts. How, I mean, the question is he going to get a job somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, given the track record that he has with players or the reputation,
it reminds me kind of the Budenholzer one reminded me kind of when the Nets fired Kenny Atkinson. And the irony of that situation is Kenny Atkinson then went to Golden State and won a ring without Kevin Durant, and he was pushed out of Brooklyn by Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that's true. it is. Yeah,
but I tend to really think that of the sports, I don't know much about hockey, so whatever hockey, but I think that of the pro sports, the NBA has the least necessity for a head coach.
The least necessity for a head coach, or the least, or the least impactful. I guess you could argue the least necessity. I mean,
it's kind of the same thing. Like the coach doesn't really. I don't know how big of a difference the coach makes if you have a really talented team.
I do think they're different things, though.
Yeah,
I do think they're different things. I think every sport kind of needs a head coach a little bit. I think you're right, although I do think the head coach of an NBA team is typically overall more impactful than the manager of a baseball team.
Yeah.
Because the manager of a baseball team usually, I mean, there's certain strategic things that managers of baseball teams can do, but I think that in basketball, it could affect a lot more. Like, there are some great basketball coaches, and there are times when you might have a bunch of players that would otherwise be nobodies that these coaches end up getting the most out of. I mean, I think a perfect example is Eric Spoelstra. He would get the most out of players that are just nobodies anywhere else. Like if they were on the Knicks, they would be bums, and he's able to win games with these guys. I think you see that a lot in basketball. You couldn't in baseball. You couldn't get that. If a guy can't hit, a guy can't hit. You're not going to be able to win a World Series with a bunch of players who suck. Whereas basketball, it's a little different. I just thought it was kind of funny that the players were at the account put out a video of the players dancing around after he was fired.
That was wild.
Yeah. So another story, the Timberwolves basically Karl Anthony Towns scored 62 points and the Timberwolves lost. And Chris Finch, we have the video. Chris Finch criticized the player, criticized Towns. We have that video, right?
Mhm.
All right.
Feed a hot hand, look for a hot hand, but at some point we got to get back to making the right play. We got to get back to doing the right things, that's just like I said. There's a lot of ways to be immature. There's always a lot of ways to be immature, and there was a lot of immature performances here throughout the roster. We totally disrespected the game ourselves, and we got exactly what we deserve. So.
Chris, did you also see? I mean, did it turn into Karl trying to hunt like a big number?
Yeah, I mean, but for a while, it was going, but down the stretch, you got kind of dropped right up for us, but yeah. So
why?
Yeah. So
okay. That is a crazy thing to say. Although, I mean, the thing is, I don't know what's crazier, the fact that a player scored 62 points and they still lost, or the fact that they also lost to the Charlotte Hornets. This is not like the Charlotte Hornets are horrible.
Yeah. So to put it into context, he had 62 points. He had 40 in the first half, so he had 40 at halftime. And you start thinking about these big numbers. Kobe 81. Will Chamberlain 100, which we'll get. Will Chamberlain 100 did not happen, by the way.
No, it didn't.
But they have pictures of Will Chamberlain doing literally every single thing except scoring 100 points. But they, like you said, they lost to the Hornets, who were horrible. Like the Charlotte Hornets are a terrible team. And while I think he's maybe right, and Anthony Edwards said after the game that they were definitely trying to get him some kind of record. I think that, like we were just talking about, like you can't really talk about players like that in the NBA because they'll switch up so quickly. And the Timberwolves are tied for the number one seed. There's 3 teams tied for the number one seed right now: the Thunder, the Timberwolves, and the Nuggets. And so the Timberwolves are having a good season. Like I agree. Like I thought it was like unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, it's the player that, like, he was saying they disrespected the game because a player scored.
He said it because he thought that they were just worrying about getting him a lot of points.
Right. I see what you're saying. Do you think there might be some truth to that?
Yeah, Anthony Edwards said it after the game. But I also think that blowing gigantic leads is not like can't count any like gigantic lead as a blown lead in the NBA because that's just how games work. Like a team goes up 20 now and it gets tied in the fourth quarter. Like that just happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like losing, but I mean the thing is usually when one player scores a whole lot, like usually they can at least win, right? Like I don't know. Like the thing is, if the players were so worried about, like if all the players were so worried about like Towns putting up 62 points, don't you think that kind of reflects coaching?
Yeah.
Like that very much reflects coaching if they care so much more about that than they do about winning.
But the crazy thing was he didn't even score the most points in the NBA.
Right. It's not like he put up it was 62,
right,
which is very impressive. But like, it really. I mean, I'd rather get the win.
Yeah, it was crazy, and he didn't even put up the most in the day. Which, by the way, would you? I don't know if you'll come on board with me on this take, but I've had this take for a while. Because we were talking about the other game. When healthy, I think that Embiid is the best player in the league. If he's fully healthy.
Yeah, maybe either him or Jokic. I really feel like it's a bit of a return for the big men. That like the best players are now big men. I mean, the game
evolved.
Yeah, the game has evolved, but what happened was the game evolved, and then big men were like true centers were very much phased out. Like the Warriors are able to win titles with Draymond Green as their 5, and he's not a center by any means. But now so many of them are more athletic. The problem is so many centers like Embiid, especially when they're athletic, get injured a lot.
Yeah.
I think that might be true. I think there might be some truth to that. I'm not 100% sure yet, but it also, like, you also have to see them in the playoffs. Like, okay, they might be better in the regular season, but if they're not good in the playoffs, what's the point of being so good in the regular season?
Right. Yeah. Well, Embiid's health has always been his issue.
Yeah, that's that. So I think that could certainly be true. All right, so we do want to get into some of the Knicks stuff. I know you wanted to talk about this with Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. Well, first of all, huge win last night. I don't care what anyone says about the amount of score. First of all, how do you wake up in the morning if you're we know a couple, but how do you wake up in the morning if you're a Brooklyn Net fan? I mean, that was Madison Square Garden last night. I don't know if there was a Net fan in the building.
I don't know if anything, all the duct tape in the world couldn't have shut up Net fans like that.
It was insane. And also the NBA, we've talked about this before. The NFL is king by far, but the NBA is so much better at marketing than the other two. NHL and MLB. And last night they had a doubleheader on national television of Knicks, Nets, and Lakers, Clippers. Like, that's so smart. You get the biggest markets and like all these teams. Two things I wanted to add. One, I think that Julius Randle is still getting a lot of unnecessary hate from that Atlanta series because he's a really good player. Yeah. And he's consistent. He has some bad nights, but he's consistent. Also, Jalen Brunson is not getting the All-Star vote is crazy. Like, I saw last night, Candace Parker, who's kind of been anti-Jalen Brunson, she had Donovan Mitchell ahead of him, and she said that the reason was because of record. The Cavaliers are half a game above the Knicks. Yeah. What that means. But the other thing that I don't understand is I don't feel like also Knick fans and the city understands this is, in my opinion, and you're gonna, I think, say somebody else, but in my opinion, this is the best player we've had since Patrick Ewing. He is unbelievably good, and he's going under the radar. I think you're going to say Carmelo Anthony, but he is going.
I would probably say Melo, but it's hard to compare them because Melo was here for such a long time, and Brunson just got here.
Yeah, I agree, but he's been unbelievable, and he was good. He was good he was really good in the playoffs last year, and he was good in the second round as well, even though he lost. But I don't know what you think. I would like to get Malcolm Brogdon or Bruce Brown. We need another piece, but Anunoby's been really good, and Precious Achiuwa was not bad last night because Isaiah Hartenstein didn't play. Now the thing that I would caution Knicks fans is that the Knicks are 27-17. We're 19-0 against teams under 500, which is good. But we're 7-17 against teams above 500. So that is, now you can only play what's in front of you. And the one thing that you'll say about the Knicks is that they never play down to the competition, obviously. So 19-0 against under 500 teams. But I don't know how far they can go. I think we still need to make another move. But Knicks fans should be really happy. There's no chance we even play in the play-in. We're locked in. We're going to be a playoff team. We're probably going to get to the second round. And we have Brunson is great and Randall's great. Just because they're not huge names doesn't mean they haven't been playing great.
Yeah. Well, my question would be, how many NBA teams could have winning records against above 500 teams?
Yeah, I don't know that. But
where are you able to find that?
We'll be able to find it. But I don't know. What do you think about them at this juncture?
I still feel like I need to see more. Because they start off very good doesn't mean that they're going to finish very good. I would say, look, it's a long season, although the playoffs are slightly creeping. I will say a few years ago, we did lose hope in the Knicks, and we said, fire everybody. I think that no team really proved me wrong quite as much as the Knicks have. If you look at we were really mad at Randall, and we were really mad at Thibodeau and Leon Rose, and I don't know, I really don't think it was really all that warranted.
Yeah, well, I think we thought at that time because the Knicks had just went to a playoff series against the Hawks, and then they had failed out, and then they had a bad season the next season, and a lot of Knicks fans, I think, were thinking of it as well, the aberration was when the Knicks went to the playoffs that year. But it turns out the aberration was that season when they were bad because they've been really good. And like the Knicks fans were clamoring and dying, myself included, for Kyrie and KD and all these big name free agents. And the signing of Brunson kind of went under the radar when it first happened. This is possibly their best free agent signing in the history of the franchise. I mean,
yeah. And the crazy thing is, I didn't like it at the time, and I've never felt so dumb. That was
right.
That might have been my coldest take ever, and I've had a lot.
You're happy to be dumb. Yeah, you're happy to be dumb.
I've had a lot of really cold takes. I think that's got to be my coldest.
But it's probably the most happy you've been about being a dumb take.
Yes, you're right. It's the happiest I've been about a dumb take. Because usually when I don't like something that one of my teams does, I'm usually right about it.
Right.
Most of the time I'm right about it.
My theory, my thinking going into now is that the Knicks can beat any team in the Eastern Conference in a series except for the top three. I don't think they could beat Philly. I don't think they could beat Milwaukee. I don't think they could beat Boston. But I think they definitely could beat Cleveland and everyone else in the East. I think they could.
Are you there?
Yeah, hold on one sec. Sorry, I went out there. Yeah, I that's what I think. I just think they can beat the top three. They can't beat the top three.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I would be worried about those. I mean, the Sixers. I mean, the thing with maybe if the Sixers have enough injuries.
Yeah, or if the Knicks make another move.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, and I don't know what they're gonna. We don't know.
We've only got about like a week or so left till the deadline.
They're playing. The Knicks are playing. What was I gonna say? The show comes out. I was looking at the wrong day. Okay, I was gonna say Nuggets, but by the time the show comes out, it's okay. So I do want to talk about a little bit this Caitlin Clark thing. Okay, so I'm gonna say what everybody else is saying. This is a flop of the century. Another thing I want to talk about: how do they still allow fans to storm the court in colleges after college games, the court in the field? In professional sports, they never allow that anymore. I mean, they did in like the 69 World Series when the Mets won, they stormed the field. It's crazy they still allow that. Am I crazy about that?
Well, first of all, I have a problem with that headline down there. I agree with you. It was a flop. First of all, initially it looks like the fan runs into her. She initiates contact.
Yeah, she ran into the fan. It looks more.
I've had a problem with Caitlin Clark. She's an amazing player, but I thought with the LSU thing, she spent the whole NCAA tournament like going like this, making fun of her opponents, and then when Angel Reese did this, they had a problem with it. Like,
no. To be fair, Caitlin Clark did not have a problem with it.
Okay, so
she didn't say anything.
But the other, I disagree with you. I love court storms. I do think that there used to be an unwritten rule, which was, in my opinion, it should be top five. You beat a top five team. And also, I don't think like you could beat a top five team and be ranked 8. Like you have to be almost unranked or very close. This field storming has gotten out of control until like Colorado stormed the field when they beat Nebraska this year. Like the field storming has gotten out of control. I like field storming, but in that they're just doing it now.
Yeah,
like,
just remember when Clemson beat Syracuse, not last year, it was the year before, I think. The Clemson stormed the field.
Yeah.
Like you beat Syracuse.
Notre Dame, like Notre Dame stormed the field. Who the hell they beat? They beat somebody and they stormed the field. And it's like Clemson. And it was like, I know that Clemson's number 1, but you're Notre Dame.
And Clemson wasn't very good last year either.
No, it was this was like 26. What was it? 2020.
Okay.
But I like court storming, but I just think it's gone like too far. This one, I mean, this is fair. Like I was a gigantic team, the best team in the country, but I am a court storming fan, and it also reminds me when Auburn beat Alabama a couple of years ago, and Auburn fans ran onto the field and the woman got stuck in the bushes. I don't know if you remember that one, but one of the Auburn fans got stuck in the bushes. But it's great. My favorite court storm moment, I don't know if you remember this, but when Indiana hit the buzzer beater to beat Kentucky, and the ball just went in the hoop, and then everybody just rushed on. That's my favorite one. But I agree, it is like somebody obviously is going to get like hurt, and I also think like fans who go on the field and like if you remember when who was it that beat USC this year, and a kid like ran onto the field and got in like Caleb Williams's face. That kid is a huge loser. Yeah, like the people that get into the players' faces too are morons.
But most of the people who storm the field are not doing that.
Or not, but I'm just saying the people that do it are just like the biggest morons.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a flop. I mean,
I really do like the whole. I like when you're at a game is there's a streaker. I always hope there's a streaker every time I'm at a game.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. I don't. Like, here's the thing. I am not anti-court storming. To be clear, I'm not opposed to it. What I will say is, it's just weird that they still allow it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I agree.
Look, if I didn't go to a big enough college to the point where we would storm the court or the field, and look, I'm not necessarily going to say that they shouldn't allow it. I think there should always be some type of risk that you're willing to, like, I don't know. I'd say let the fans have fun, I guess. It just is bizarre that they still allow it. That like in professional sports, they never allow it anymore.
Yeah.
You would think that they wouldn't allow it.
Right.
Especially when the fans are like disproportionately younger and intoxicated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing in professional sports, but they're not disproportionately college students. So I think college students are probably rowdier, and it might be a little more dangerous for them to be storming the court.
Well, like when they had the malice at the Palace, I don't know, but there was a guy that Ron Artest was about to punch, and he slipped. But if he had not Artest, one of the guys on the Pacers, but if he hadn't have slipped and he had made contact, the guy would have been like breathing out a straw.
Yeah.
Like so there it can obviously get out of control.
Yeah. well, malice at the Palace, that was like,
but they did really come on to the court.
Yeah, it did really taint the image of the Pacers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little before our time. We were very young.
Yeah.
All right. So I do want to, I mean, I don't know. I just like fights in sports in general.
No, I do too.
Especially in baseball, because baseball's so slow and everything.
Yes.
All right. So you want to talk about this Virgin Atlantic flights? This flight got canceled because some guy saw bolts were missing.
Yeah. So there was going from London to New York, and some guy saw that the engine was missing like 2 bolts, and then I
think it was the wing or something.
The wing, the wing. And the wing was missing 2 bolts, and they looked at it and were like, "Yeah, you're right," and they had to delay the flight. And it just brings back obviously what happened with the Alaska Airline flight, which was missing bolts. The craziest thing about that Alaska Airline flight was it wasn't the exit door that came off. Like, you can understand because the way the exit door is propelled to open. But like that was the scariest thing. I don't understand how in 2024 we're still like dealing with this, like with missing bolts. Like how this is like so easy to fix.
It's like the most basic thing.
I mean, but bad week to be a Boeing stockholder, by the way.
Yeah, really. But I was thinking. I think the craziest part of this is that a passenger noticed it.
Yeah.
What percentage of passengers would notice that? If there was a missing bolt, I don't think I would ever notice.
I don't think I've ever noticed a bolt at all.
Like somebody, like you must be like a plane nerd if you can notice something like that. But also, like, what if they had ended up flying? What would have happened?
Yeah, I don't know. And yeah,
would the plane just crash?
I don't know. And what, like, yeah. I mean, it vindicates the people who clap when the plane lands, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me. And it's also crazy to me, like, how much money they spend on airlines that, like, or the Miracle on the Hudson, that, like, a couple of Canadian geese took down the whole plane.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Couldn't that happen? But, like, don't you think there might be a way to, like, prevent geese from entering the engine?
Yeah, like you would think that happened more often. But, like, I just don't understand, like, how we're this, like, advanced in technology. And like we're still doing stuff like this, like missing bolts and whatever, and what happened on Alaska Airlines. And the funniest thing was that they gave like everyone $1,500, which is like, sorry, you almost died. Here's
Yes.
you should be getting millions. You should be like, I think that honestly, you should get free fights for life for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. And it also reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld had a bit where he was talking about pilots will be like, well, we're upping our speed, so we'll be able to get now we'll be able to get there a little quicker. Like, why don't they just go the full speed the whole time?
Yeah.
Up speed. But yeah, this is crazy. I've never been a person that's scared to fly. I think like I'm not scared to fly. I just hate like the flying part, like just dealing with the public, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I had a family on my flight to Los Angeles who was like, their kid was like being annoying and they were trying to get him to sit, but they wouldn't get out of the aisleway while like people were boarding the plane and stuff. So the whole plane got like delayed like 30 minutes because you won't get out of the aisle. Like that stuff is worse about flying than scary, but this is bad.
The thing is, flying is not dangerous.
No.
It just feels dangerous. I mean, statistically, you're more likely to die in a car. And by the way, what you brought up about the engines is that like animals never get in your car's engine.
Right. Well, but plane engines are open though. But yeah.
But why do they have to be open?
I don't know. But because they use probably the wind or whatever. But I just think it's crazy that you could get like one geese almost took out 200 people.
Right. I don't know. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is. I would be like, what? I can't imagine how livid I would be if I was on that flight.
Well, the crazy thing was the Alaska Airlines, the people that were supposed to be sitting on right at that door didn't make the flight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like imagine how lucky you get. Like,
unless those people also would have been able to notice it.
No, the door that ripped open on Alaska Airlines.
Oh, that one. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
The two people that were there didn't make the flight.
They would have been killed.
That was like, you know that Seth MacFarlane, the guy who created Family Guy, he had the ticket for Flight 93 and slept in.
Yeah, I know.
The greatest snooze alarm moment of all time.
Yeah, I know. That's just crazy. So there's this other. I mean, I haven't been on a plane in almost 5 years.
Yeah,
but I totally agree that the experience is not pleasant. But I've never really felt nervous about it. Maybe I feel a little nervous when there's turbulence or something.
Yeah.
But I guess like this does sort of vindicate the people afraid of flying arguments, or like see what could happen. I mean, all of it all just happens right around it. A bunch of stories just happen to take place right around now. Thought it was a little weird. Okay, so I do want to talk about this one story. This guy who throws a baby shower for his 4 baby mothers. Or I think it was 5 actually.
Yeah, 5.
5 baby mothers. Okay. Yeah, it's a minor thing. We do have the video right here, right? Yeah, we do have the video.
Appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all the love. If you're not here, it's because you're a square. Sorry, I didn't invite you.
Okay. So my question is, there's a few things. First of all, this sounds like something a professional athlete would do.
Yeah, well, the guy claims to be like a professional musician, not like a famous one, but yeah.
Well, if he makes enough money,
right?
I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know how much money non-famous musicians make. I mean, there's a lot of musicians who make zilch.
Right. Probably,
so I don't know. Like, I'm surprised, honestly, that all of them showed up.
Well, I'm surprised that there wasn't a fight either.
That too. That's pretty incredible that they're getting along so well.
I mean, shout out to the guy. It's a crazy move. I'll give him it's a crazy move. Like you said, the money, like, you know how much it costs to like raise one child? Like 5 at the same time is insane.
So he must be making a lot of money with that music.
Yeah, I mean, 5 and 5 different women. He was very active. You can't really blame him because the way that people live in Queens, like you can't walk from one room to the next without bumping into somebody.
Well, this was apparently in Queens.
It was in Queens.
Maybe he's a Met fan.
Maybe he was a Met fan, but which is underrated, like one of the craziest boroughs. But It's Queen. I mean, and Queens also, like, if you ever see like videos of Queens, the Queens is the most like populated borough, and it's just added to its population by 5. But they have like one train system. If you ever see like the train platforms are just like filled in the morning, it's ridiculous. But so yeah, maybe you're just so many people in Queens that you just bump into 5 women at the same time. It's crazy that all the women also are like at the same like time of their pregnancy. So he was just like, he just fucked like 5 days in a row and just didn't. Underrated, maybe worst pullout game in the history of mankind. I mean, like you would think you would throw a condom on at some point, right?
Yeah, you would think. Well, like I said, it really sounds like a lot like something like a professional athlete would do.
It's like, fool me once, shame on me. For shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me is 5 times. No fisticuffs. I do have a story. What we talk about fisticuffs, but I bartended on a boat for work, and there was a party boat one night where a baby mother had gotten onto the boat, and like the side chick of the guy who promoted it, and it turned into a brawl on the boat. And one of the security guards went to break up the brawl, and the baby mother took a big like metal chair and threw it, and it nailed the security guard in the face.
Holy shit!
So this I think that the most underrated part was that there wasn't fisticuffs at this thing.
Yeah,
like a Queens like 5 baby mothers just sounds like hell. And this guy's life, by the way, is just going to be hell, right? I mean, 5 baby mothers, all kids at the same exact age.
It could be, depending on how much money he makes.
Yeah, it sounds like hell. It sounds like hell, but it did remind me of like Tyreek Hill. Tristan Thompson has a ton of baby mothers.
Right, like something Tyreek Hill would do or something like that. But the thing is, though, it's like he's saving money. You can't have it's cheaper than having 5 different separate baby showers.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like Tyreek Hill's done it. Tristan Thompson's done it. By the way, Tristan Thompson suspended for steroids. He's so addicted to cheating that he had to bring it into basketball as well. But yeah, it's crazy. Like I feel like it's just like, especially if you're an athlete, like a rich athlete, like how do you not be more careful? Like, you know that there's probably going to be people trying to trap you and stuff like that. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like you have to be more careful.
Yeah, I guess they're not worried about it because they make so much money.
And what about like when he's like, what about like when this guy's like I assume that because he had 5 baby mothers, the same one, that he doesn't have a girlfriend. So like, what about like when he's like going into the dating world?
Yeah, how does that?
5 kids with 5 different women. Like, you think he's gonna get them confused?
No, I don't think it's so.
Like,
Antonio Cromartie couldn't remember his kids' names.
No, and I was gonna say Cromartie, but there's no way like Nick Cannon knows like all of his kids, right?
No,
like,
there's no way.
He could like what's gonna happen like when Nick Cannon like passes in 60 years or whatever? Like that will ceremony, they should televise it.
Yeah.
But this is crazy. I can't even imagine like this is just ridiculous. 5, and the fact that he did it and that they all showed up and were friendly with each other is maybe the most shocking part.
Yeah, I just thought it was pretty funny. So you saw the story. Sports Illustrated is going the way of the Pac-12. It basically is the Pac-12 of publications. It's like everybody feels really bad about it. It seems like, but also you have to acknowledge that it is just not profitable. Just like the Pac-12.
Yeah, it's sad because like when I was a kid, I would get Sports Illustrated every week. And I would always read Sports Illustrated. I love Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated Kids too, with Buzz Beamer, the little blonde kid. I love Sports Illustrated. Its magazines are not profitable anymore. RIP a lot. I remember like being like a kid also like when like I remember like a couple of times like when I was a kid, like we'd be at the grocery store and my mom would have like a lot of stuff. Like I was probably like 12 or 13. And my mom would like be buying a lot of stuff, and I would try and sneak the, without her noticing, I would try and sneak the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition into the buying and just hope that I would get it. It was shout out to Christian Harper, by the way, Jared Goff's girlfriend, last cover model for the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. Now they're not going under yet, but they're laying off the entire staff. They got caught earlier using ChatGPT for articles earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, magazines aren't profitable anymore, obviously.
But it's not just the magazine; it's also the digital publication.
Yeah, but I mean, like that wasn't going to be anywhere near. But my only thought was like, this was like, I feel like, were you a Sports Illustrated person? I was a big Sports Illustrated.
When I was younger.
Yeah.
I love that in recent years.
That I liked that, and Sports Illustrated. Like when I was a kid, Sports Illustrated and ESPN the magazine.
Yeah, for me it was just Sports Illustrated when I was younger. But
they used to have like in classes, like sometimes like they used to have that in class, like when you were in elementary school, they'd have like Sports Illustrated lying around, and it would be like from 10 months ago or something. But yeah, I loved it, and there's so many like classic like covers and stuff, and I think it's sad, but obviously there's going to be like a new age. Like I don't think there's going to be like books, newspapers much anymore. I mean, like you like, as you know, like you don't even need to read books anymore because you just use Audible.
I listen to books. I can't read. The thing is, there are very few things I hate more than reading.
Right.
Physically.
Right.
I don't mean listening, like physically reading. It's not my favorite thing. I really
also like, I think like also the market is just so oversaturated as well with Sports Illustrated. Like you have every other sports publication has their online digital, and then you have podcasts and radio shows and whatever. Like it's so oversaturated, and it used to, forgetting about the digital, like Sports Illustrated used to come out every week, which is like now it kind of reminds me of like when Mike and the Mad Dog first started and stuff. You would have to wait till the morning to get like sports reactions, and now like one of the reasons that sports radio is kind of going, or all radio is going kind of under, is you can have the reaction now.
Yeah.
And immediate. So like I think the market's just so oversaturated as well.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. Yeah, to an extent. I mean, that certainly does hurt radio. Although I think radio will always be, like, people say radio is a dying industry. I don't totally agree. I think there'll always be some type of demand for radio as long as people drive. There's going to be radios in the car, and there's going to be radio stations. Like I think there's at least seems to be some sort of market for radio, but podcasting certainly is a better alternative in a lot of ways than radio, especially
I listen to like I listen to like
instantly,
and I listen to like the Michael K show, like the podcast of it. Like a lot of people do that as well. Like the podcast of the show.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to be there at 3:00. Like you could do it whenever.
Right. I did that with Kirk and Callahan when they were still around.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that podcast, like, but most of the money that they're making is off of like the actual like radio ratings. Very little of it is from the streaming.
Right.
I don't know if you also saw this. The WWE signed a deal to move Raw to Netflix. Antonio Cromartie's favorite show.
Correct. But the big news of it was $5 billion.
Yeah.
So let me ask you then, if you think that if the WWE can get $5 billion for one show a week, which is Raw is one show a week, the NBA TV contracts are going to come up soon. What do you think they could command from a streaming service if one Raw a week commands $5 billion? I mean, the NBA could get a ridiculous amount.
Yeah, I assume so. Well, I think that you can watch on some streaming services. You can watch NBA games.
Yeah, but not like this. This is like exclusive Netflix.
Right.
The league that has it, the MLS, has a deal with the Apple TV. You can only watch the games on Apple TV. I made a prediction that I don't think is that crazy now, which is that in about 20 years, the Super Bowl won't be on television anymore. I think that everything is going to go to streaming. And we saw it. There was a playoff game only on streaming.
Yeah.
That's the way of the world. And, the NFL, they said, lost 10 to 15 million viewers by going to the streaming. But what does it matter to the NFL? Because they got paid a boatload by Peacock.
Yeah. I also, in my case, it didn't matter because I actually have Peacock.
Right. A lot of people do. But I'm saying, like, the only reason the NFL cares about viewership is because the money they would get from advertisers. But if you're already getting the money, then the viewership doesn't really matter that much. Like,
right.
Yeah, we're losing viewers. But
people also often get so mad about like businesses trying to make a maximize their profits, which I don't know what else like the NFL is supposed to do. It's not unethical to move a game to streaming. It's just a bit inconvenient to some of the users. But if you think about it, you pay money for cable where you get access to the NFL. So you're paying money for that. Or, you go get a drink at a bar or something. You pay money for that. You pay money for pretty much everything that you feel is worth spending your time doing.
Right.
And paying for streaming services is very common and really is not like I wouldn't mind. I would rather just pay. It would be cheaper for most people to watch all their sports on streaming and only pay for streaming services than to pay for cable.
Right. Because
and then also that's the thing I don't get.
Right, because then when the game is over on Peacock, I can go watch a movie on it. I can watch other shows. Like you're getting other things for the cheapness of it is not bad. I want to point out
also like how people get cable. They get all of these hundreds, thousands of channels. How many of them do they watch?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to pay the way cable works. You have to if you want ESPN, they're like, well, you have to pay for HGTV. Well, I don't want HGTV. It doesn't matter. It's part of the package. Like that's how they work it. So I really don't, I agree. I don't mind streaming services. I watch most of my stuff on streaming anyway, because I watch stuff on my phone and computer. I want to point out, by the way, one of the stupidest things ever. We cut cable. So I don't have cable anymore. I have Hulu, which has live TV, but it doesn't have MSG network. So I wanted to watch the Knicks this year. So I got NBA League Pass, and NBA League Pass blocks out your local team.
What's the point of NBA League Pass then?
Yeah.
That would be like if NFL Plus blocked out Jet games.
Yeah, ESPN does the same thing where ESPN Plus shows every NHL game, but you can't get the Rangers because you're
Did you cancel it or do you still have it?
No, I canceled League Pass. I still have ESPN Plus, but I don't care about hockey that much.
No, I was talking about League Pass.
But it's so stupid. It's that's the one reason I'm watching it. But yeah, I think that the world is going to go to streaming. You already see it. Like a lot of MLB games are on streaming now.
Yeah.
Only like Prime and Apple TV.
There are some Met games that are only on Apple TV.
Right. And like the NFL Thursday nights are only on streaming. And I could see them, they'll probably start moving other games like Saturday nights might only be on streaming.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
College football too.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you you can watch the show on Peacock. No, you can watch us on YouTube. We're not streaming service worthy. But all right. So we'll be back next week. This is Moving the Goalposts.